roadmap, but out of scope for this call. Welcome everyone. Our main goal in the next 30 minutes, we do a demo of Flora AI so you can see what this tool is, how it's used, how we think about it. We are not experts in these tools. These tools just came out, but we've been using them the last week for about 10, 15 hours exploring different workflows. And for something like Flora, it's really fun to go between text and image generation. And from a design perspective, just very satisfying. So we're just gonna jump right into a demo. This whole session is supposed to be as engaging as possible in terms of roundtable. So if anything comes up, just post it in the chat. I got the chat open. We got the chat lined up. We're gonna do a 5-minute demo, 10-minute overview of Flora, where we'll build up from scratch, and then we got time for 10, 15 minutes of questions at the end. So in terms of Flora itself, one of the things that really blows my mind is some of their community templates. So Flora is itself, it's a no-code tool that goes between text, image, and video generation. And so for this canvas here, you can see that it starts with one. Let's see if we can zoom in. We got a little bit of lag. Here we go. It starts with one story. It pulls out different characters in that story, and then it's generating different images and videos based off of those characters. And so essentially it becomes like a giant workflow application and also a storyboarding application where you can make things from scratch. This canvas is slowing down the web browser, so we're just gonna exit it and start from scratch. Flora itself is like a giant whiteboard. There are 3 main blocks in Flora, so I'll just show the 3 main blocks. Each block is a node that can connect to itself. We've got text, we've got image, and we've got video. And the nice thing about Flora, it's like vibe coding where you don't have to think about it. This feels like vibe designing where you don't even need to worry about the prompts that you're working on because you can tell the nodes what you're looking for. So you can say, write a poem about a tree. Right now we can see we're using the ChatGPT 4 mini model right over here. And based off of that, we've got a general poem about a tree. If we connect that to the image node, we don't have to copy paste anything. We don't have to change anything. It's grabbing this context from the poem that it wrote. We can pick different models to generate. So I'll just pick the base model, FluxDev. You can use Ideogram. You can use GPT images. And based off of that, we're now going from text to image. Images take about 30 seconds to generate and videos take about 4 minutes. So let's do text to video just to get this one going too so we can see it. We'll use Minimax and just get that generated. And so for this style platform in itself, while one-to-one-to-one node is just an introduction from text to image to video, and you can do image to text and image to video as well, what really starts to be interesting in Flora is when you start breaking things apart. So you've got a poem about a tree. We could say, write an epic 60-second sci-fi film where the tree is part of the plot. So if you're interested in short stories, if you're interested in social media content, you don't have to know you don't have to know the initial endpoint. You can generate this as you go. And so we're getting this text node is generating the tree. We can see this image baked up here. So we've got, let's see if this is any good. Right now it's using 4.0, and that was just a one-line, one-shot. The last echo, in year 2065, Earth has plunged into a crisis. We've got extreme climate change. Oh, wow. Okay, this is really dystopic. Make it optimistic. We don't need more Black Mirror. The last Black Mirror episode just came out on Netflix. In terms of iterating, this is so easy to iterate. You can plug in different things. You can rewrite the prompt, and it'll regenerate. Hopefully, we don't get Black Mirror. Let's see. Oh, wow, still doing that. Make it solar punk optimistic. So again, just in terms of iteration, it is as quick of just being like, nope, I do not like that. I don't want to see the image of the world where we all burn down. I want to see a little bit more solar punk, a little hypey, a little bit more connected to nature. Finally, okay, 2065, we've transformed into a lush society. We've got some kind of solar tree. We've got a bot named Mira. Awesome. So now if I want to grab something from this story, because I'm just vibe designing right now, I'm not trying to orchestrate the whole thing. I'll say grab all the main characters from this plot. So I'm just connecting text to text. So anytime you connect the node, that gets added to the context window. And so now that we have a story, I want the characters, describe the environment, I want the landscape. And so just using that story that we generated, we're now just connecting this to this. So characters, we've got mirror, we've got a whole group of the solar trunk group, and then we've got the guardian, sounds like you got the group. Okay, so we've got that, and then maybe, let's say, make an epic description of this sci-fi solar punk tree, just so we can kind of see what that looks like, because that was one of the things we used to seed the story. So now, in terms of a design process, now we're starting to do divergent processes. So we generate something like a story, and we're grabbing the characters, the environment, and the tree. You probably know where that's going video-wise. This guy's still generating. We'll see if it gets there. So now, in terms of having main characters, so now that we have 3 characters, I'm not trying to generate all 3 at once. So I can do a text node here, grab character 1 info, make a prompt for an image model. So now, again, as we're starting to filter, now I want to kind of see based off this story, what are the characters? So we just grabbed the first one. We could do this for 2 and 3 too. We've got Mira. And so now in terms of Mira, we're going to generate an image with her. Let's do, yeah, like Flux. We'll do Flux. And then biggest thing here is you can generate a couple at the same time. So we're going to do 4 variations here. On the bottom right, there's just a little clicker that's like, hey, instead of 1, generate more than 1. Sometimes I'll test the prompts too if there's like an image that I don't like or do like the vibe of. So now we're testing some images of Mira, which we've got character-wise. For the environment, let's just go straight to video. Let's not do an image. I want to see a video of what this looks like. And for video model, let's use Pika. I like Pika's environments. So we've got now this generating a Pika video of the environment. And then let's do the same thing for the tree. The video of the tree didn't generate above. So we are going to do Pika, make us a tree. Okay, so these are all generating. These are baking. In the chat, we got eco-optimistic, exactly. And so these are, my initial impression, these are a little bit more like cartoonish avatar-y than I was thinking. So I might like retweak this or reuse this in different ways, but let's see what else comes up. And that could also be a bias of the baseline models. Even image gen in Flora ends up being really avatar-y. Okay, we've got some images of Mira, and let's see if we can actually do, make a photo. So just adding in a text node here, make a photo realistic prompt for a character shot. And so now, so in terms of this larger workflow, you're starting to see we're starting to expand based off of like how we're thinking and working through the visuals. You start branching off. Not everything carries forward. You can start from scratch again too. So I actually want to start with a new character prompt, but I want to bring this image forward. So let's say we're going to do a new image model or new image generation. And let's say we also want the image. So now we're doing image and text. And you can see here, there's both, because I still like the description of Mirror. I just want something different. Gemini 2.0 is the main model for text and image. So now we're just doing another iteration of Mirror because I just want to see something different. So we've got that generating. Let's see what the videos we got. Okay, so this is the environment of this future. Nice. This is a pretty good pan. It's a good balance of like realistic. There's some structures like this that exist in South America as a park and a little bit generally urban. So again, didn't do anything prompting wise, just kind of asked it what could look like. We got that here. For Daniel, is there a style reference node? There is. There are actually styles. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, we got this large epic tree. Kind of looks like a UFO is up there, but I like how Pika makes everything in action shop. Everything is a pan to a quick accelerate, so you could connect some of those videos together. Let's see our boring tree up here. We at least got a good tree. Very peaceful, very peaceful. So that's the baseline without any sci-fi or any twist. And then let's see over here. So still a little bit cartoony, so I would work on this node to make it, I'm looking for something more photorealistic to match the videos, and we might go text to video. So in terms of Daniel's question for style, so let's just do that right over here. Let's go back to the original mirror prompt. Let's add in an image. And so this was actually just added last month on Flora. They added style guides where you can actually fine-tune your own LoRa models for different styles, and they have their own styles too. So they figured out, just like Instagram when it came out had different filters to make you and your friends or food just look amazing, this These are really nice like product mock-ups if you're trying to do that. X-ray if you're going for some sci-fi. So let's actually just let's do the photorealistic one as a style baseline and add that in, just so we can see the difference. So remember, this is the baseline with no style, and this was another one. And so if that's mirror photorealistic, let's also let's just get another style too, just to get a sense here. Let's do a soft focus. I wonder if that's gonna do like a close-up. Maybe, maybe not, we'll see. So as this node up here, we've got the style guide. Okay, already, now we're working with like Dora the Explorer. Might want to change her kind of like update, but we got the photorealistic style applied. So you can see how style ends up being a bias where you don't have to worry about prompting and changing. Nice, and then Rose talked about specific use cases. We'll talk about use cases too. And let's see this one as this is the second style guide. And then for training styles, it's as easy as drag and dropping just like 10, 20 images onto the canvas, and then it just loads as a task and you can make your own styles. Okay, nice. This one's starting to be a little bit more of what I was hoping for and expecting, where it's like kind of sci-fi future where you've even got like light coming out of the plants and a little bit more photorealistic. So the soft focus is actually nice. So I might use that to generate other characters. And so just, again, just kind of zooming out, each one of these, we started with a blank canvas. We just started with, I don't know what I want to write. Let's make me something. Let's make main characters. Let's make an environment. Each one of these can feed forward as much as you want to, and you can iterate as much as you need to. And each one of these themselves, I'm just clicking on this node, hitting F, each one of these is a full asset. So if you really like something that you generated, this is an image you can export back into Figma or Canva once you have something, or video editing software if you're doing video, or Sora if you want to kind of mix and match. So each one of these is a full asset. And there's also ways to do quick edits too. So for this one, let's say we really liked this pen, or let's do this pen. If we really like this pen, some of the quick edits, we've got just the Topaz model to upscale it. So this is going to upscale it by 3x. So we start getting like 10. Let's see if this is actually upscaled. Do we get an error? We got some birds in the background there. Okay, so it looks like there's an error. Can re-upscale this guy. But you can do edits with the Gemini, and you can also upscale it. And then the whole goal here is to be able to make assets that you can export out and put straight into production. So this is both a workflow kind of automation or workflow platform to manage prompts, change prompts, update images, and it also operates like a asset library where anything you've done prior gets saved here and you can pull it out. So these are some of the posters I was testing earlier, which I can show too as use cases. Anything I want to pull from a prior one, I just click here and it pulls it right onto the canvas. This was a poster that was made. So all of these images are now in a library that are able to be used for future reference. Cool, so that's the quick demo into Flora. In terms of some use cases for what Rose was mentioning, let's go into here. So one of the things that I think is really interesting with Flora is you can start actually doing graphics with like baseline text in it as image models are getting better. Image gen from ChatGPT, Ideogram 3.0 was just launched on the platform, and that's one that's been really nice. So for this example, for this workflow, I didn't start from a blank canvas in terms of text. I just started with an image I thought was really compelling. I just found this randomly online. I was like, man, this is a nice tree. But I don't want to use that tree in itself. I want to evolve that tree. So I was like, hey, like help make a prompt that describes the tree. Help make a poster that's minimalist with some text in it. So we're just saying, hey, we've got another event coming up next week where we're vibe coding PCBs. We combined those two texts into one main prompt. And then based off of that, it just made a couple different variations of these posters. And these are actually like surprisingly good. The text is only so-so on some of them, but the design, the composition, the evolution from that initial image is pretty good. And then this was one that I thought was super interesting right here. So again, in terms of like being able to do graphics with images, could be event banners, could be social posts, there's that. And then in terms of video, because video is king right now in terms of content, it just threw that right into a video, generate from image to video. Now I even got like a little animation too from something from like a more poster style graphic. And so you can imagine using this not only to make kind of standardized graphics to post kind of statically with social posts or banners, you could start taking that and evolving it even to like a little short story. Like this could be a whole story of kind of this tree and these birds kind of flying if we wanted to go that way. So I would say social media and content is one. Um, we showed the game characters above. That's another one. And then I think last example I've seen from a design perspective, these become really collaborative mood boards, especially for non-designers. So Flora's main take is like, hey, a lot of these platforms are being built right now by people who aren't designers. So when you think of like using ChatGPT just to talk and text to an image, like imagine you're hired as a designer on a team, whether you're working with a designer or you are the designer, and all you get to do is just text them and that's it. That's like the worst environment ever for design workflows. There's no like multimedia, there's no pinups. It's just kind of texting back and forth for feedback. So this is one of the examples they used for, essentially they called it a mood board, but you could imagine this for product renderings and shots. You can imagine this for interior design, furniture design, conceptual design. All they did was start with a prompt that said, hey, make me like a Nordic minimal style setup. They made this initial over here. They have one scene. Based off the scene, they've extracted a color palette. So you can also do visual branding in here where you're starting to get like really interesting baseline hex codes. You've got different objects you can play with. They've got chairs, furniture, plates. And then based off of that, they're starting to show those plates in different, those mock-ups and renders in different environments, and even starting to do different material renders too for that chair. So when you start thinking about like what can you do in Flora, it ends up becoming an interactive pinup board where you can do production level asset generation, where you can get to final renderings that, again, like might be helpful for a client, a team, a sprint, and you can just start moving quicker. But another thing I think is interesting about Flora, let's pull up the tree project. It's also multiplayer. So I don't know if you want to give team members the canvas or design, but it's like Figma where it's multiple click, which a lot of no-code platforms right now are single player, which is the biggest gripe for teams. For Flora, it's built multiplayer first. So you can also have people go in, use one of the initial prompts or nodes or canvases to then make their own things too, which can be really empowering in terms of like a collaborative context. So that is a quick intro, demo, walkthrough of Flora. What questions y'all have? What's top of mind for you? What else do you have alongside use cases? What are you thinking? Dylan asked about pricing. Yeah. So for Flora, let's pull up pricing. They have a baseline free tier. Every consumption-based model has some kind of free tier. Because it's image-based, you're going to go through the credits pretty quickly. I was able to generate one image and one really big video, and then I ran out of free tier credits, which is like, okay. The one thing unique about the pricing is it's rollover credits. So a lot of consumption-based platforms, if you don't use it by the end of the month, it's done. As designers, there's sprints, there's big deadlines, and so if you do buy credits, they just stay in your account. It's 10,000 for $20 a month. This is the annual one. And for 10,000 a month, 10,000 a month ends up being about 200 to 400 images, 50 videos, and I think it's like 10,000 text generations. So you think about what that $20 gets you. It gets you like one or two like visual posts every single day on 2 social media channels. It gets you probably one like longer term, if you're doing like short sci-fi films or like social media videos, it probably gets you like 1 or 1.5 videos, and depending if you use context or other platforms. And then if you do run out of credits, so when I was getting ready for this, I used about 2,000 credits in a half hour just to get started on the platform. It's very intuitive, it's very easy to get started. And I just started generating so many different things, storyboards, characters, posters. I did 10 workflows, hit through all these credits, and then you can add credits as you go too. So if you have a big deadline or something you're trying to do, I just bought credits right before this so we could do some live demos. And this ends up being just like, yeah, I think per image, it was like 60 cents, 70 cents per image. So there might be some like cost calculations there for different people. Appreciate the question. Any other questions? Has anyone tried Flora yet? Has anyone opened it up before this call? What was your experience, Rose? What was it like?
I just tried it super, super briefly, like the other day. It's fun to play around with. I think I don't have a hired creative profession. I'm more of like a creative hobbyist. And so trying to figure out like for me where I'm enabling hobbies versus where I'm kind of like leading myself down an open-ended stream of creative ideas is like kind of what I'm trying to figure out the nuance between. It didn't work so well. I was trying to generate some like branding assets, logos, and I was like, these are okay. I'm finding it works better for like image-based, photorealistic kind of the stuff that you were doing. But I have not tried all that much. I've tried two different boards. So, how
Yeah, that makes
about anyone else?
appreciate sharing. I would say on the project side, I think about it as like a if you're doing like an arts and crafts project, you don't buy like 100
Totally.
you don't buy like all the material up front, like professional canvases because you're a painter. You're like, I'm gonna go to Blix. I'll buy like $50 worth of material, and then we'll see how far we get. So I think in terms of Flora, they know there's a lot of creative hobbyists. Treat it the same. So whenever kind of going into a new tool, I always think about what's the main output. So if you're working on like a cookbook or like a mock-up for a story, think of that output and just treat it as like a set of materials and also like set an expiration date on it. It's so easy to buy something with like the aspiration of doing something. Be like, yo, if in 30 days I don't get it, I'm deleting this account or whatever it is. I find in the age of AI there are so many new tools. We do the same thing internally. Is like, hey, can we ship something to production in 2 weeks? And if we can't, we're probably not going to use that product again. So that could be one mental model as you think through that. And then on the logo side, I know they don't have all of the latest up-to-date image and video models. And so for things like logos, I know Sora O3 with image gen can be better for that. And actually, just this week, they just introduced form factors. Let's see what the video was. Kenny in depth. So I can share that. This is right on their YouTube video. I'll share the link in the chat. And so they were looking at specifically like architectural renderings to keep the whole scene the same. And so how these image and video generation models are working is they're actually starting to read through the depth map to keep the general form. So it might work the same or it
Interesting.
might work similar with logos. And I know there's a little bit of like
Interesting.
SVG, black and white, that you just have to figure out like what works for that workflow for visual consistency and
Hmm.
continuity.
As an architect, do you think that it would work for renderings for a building permit?
It's a good question. I've got a few friends on the architecture and landscape architecture side. I think these work very well for client-based drawings, but even in
Hmm.
terms of that, there's a little bit of things you got to be really like careful with when you render something for, especially so I'm going below permitting and kind of looking at the client-facing side. When you render something for a client and they want it designed. So even if like got a friend who's a landscape architect, they intentionally leave out some details in their sketches. The photorealism brings in furniture that's like physically impossible or like super
Hmm.
expensive with
Hmm.
finishes. So there are certain things where they just know they haven't quite
Um,
gotten the workflow to work for like finishes. But with some of these
yeah.
tools, even in like ChatGPT selection, you can start changing just specific things out too, or you can bring it now into just like Photoshop or Figma too. So I would say these aren't quite fully automated to like regulatory or client expectation production because one
Sure.
hallucination now could be a very expensive detail longer term.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
they're also
thanks.
the yeah, you're welcome. I'd say the models are improving so quickly. I think we're in like inning number one for like no code design tools. So this is very much a getting started from a Flora side and from a foundation model side. How about anyone else? Has anyone else tried any, if not Flora, has anyone else tried any other AI generative tools for design in their workflows? If you're using Figma, have you used anything on the Figma side? Do you import, export from other tools right now manually?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of this stuff. I signed up for Flora when it first came out, and I feel like they maybe overpromised a little bit on some of the capabilities. Like the biggest one, when we've assessed this kind of product for client projects, there's been issues with consistency, and so for product images, they don't match one to one, and so if the proportions are wrong, it's a GDPR violation. And so we had a project in Europe that we had to kill because it didn't match enough on the dimensions of the products. I mean, mostly right now, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of really good tools online and a lot of probably better tools for this offline. And so, like the Topaz tools, for example, I think the desktop versions are better right now than the online ones. The online ones are also very expensive. And so, I think with part of this too, like with Flora, my biggest, they're trying to beat everything. And I feel like I still need more than one tool. I mean, so like when I do this kind of stuff right now, I'll use like Figma as or mood boarding basically, and I just got access to the Adobe copycat, I guess, of Figma, Firefly mood boards. And so I'll use that sort of like visual style, and then I'll use Lightroom as sort of like a central organization point, and then kind of keep everything bouncing around. But I haven't found that there's one kind of everything tool right now. The one thing I have learned in the last couple of weeks that's been kind of a pretty big process improvement is generating text as transparent PNG layers. So instead of trying to have one image that generates text, I'll generate a base image and then stack that either with Photoshop or Figma, so I can move the text around appropriately without having to try to inpaint or redo everything because there's a typo.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Appreciate you sharing some of those workflow insights, because that's why we like hopping on calls like these. Is like everyone's got kind of a different take, and I think my main mental model here is these end up being more kind of like fig gem boards or like mural boards, where they're really about like work in process and kind of like workflow orchestration. So if you're going for like the final product, like client ready or even like product shot ready, and it comes down to pixels, it is not pixel perfect. That is like, that's something just AI is not good for in any workflow. Even as we've been doing voice agents and other sprints, there's still a variability because it's a probabilistic model. So anytime you need 100%, you always have to question like what role are these probabilistic models playing in your workflow, because they should not be end to end. So I think for this feels like, at least on my side, like a very, very quick sketchbook. And there are some things that might be able to get more kind of finalized assets. But to get that last 5, 10, 15%, it is going to be whether you're doing video editing, final pixel editing on UX side, or product renders, or even client or regulatory renders. Definitely need to bring that into like a different workflow, which even right now, professionally, there are different tools. You'll start in one, import, export to another. That's pretty common right now.
Yeah, the one thing I have been seeing that I really like lately on some of these more complex like node-based tools are having chat interfaces that will start doing that high-level mapping for you. And so I feel like with Flora, initially when I tried it, it's intimidating. I mean, all of these node-based kind of things are intimidating. They require you to sort of know a lot about what you're trying to do. And so I've started to see a lot more betas of, okay, use either voice input or just chat with it. It will lay out, hey, here's a recommended flow, and then kind of go from there. Uh, to refine that. But yeah, no, I mean, for me, Flora right now is sort of in the great conceptually, but when it comes to actual delivery, still some room for improvement that keeps me from using it in production.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think a lot of tools like Flora too are figuring out what role, like Cursor is probably the leading one, Cursor and Windsurf with their chat-based agent to be able to generate and update code bases. A lot of platforms have started copying that, to your point, and we'll see how long Flora takes to do that. I think because Flora is championing designers, I'm really curious to see how or if that's on the roadmap initially, because they also still have a lot of fundamental work too, like even bringing in reasoning to make better or visual graphics. I find that O3 in chat with image gen is just such a good combo, because it actually thinks through really complex prompts in a way that just trying to one shot or few shot something isn't quite it. Awesome. Well, we're at time. If you got to hop, see you later. If you've got another follow-up question, we'll hang out for the next couple minutes. Thanks for hopping on. If you got any
Good to
questions
see
around
you,
design
Michael.
workflows or tips, send them over. Great to see you, Rose. Thanks for joining. See ya. Bye, everyone.